Welcome back to Bumblebee Viewer. Today's video is about the top 10 scary SW ranch events that can't be explained. Event number 10 is alleged SWs. I want to start by asking that you do not say this creature's name in any context. Apparently, despite the indigenous legend of the SW spreading so far, the warning that comes with it has not. To outsiders, this is just scary stories and lore, but to the people whose culture and beliefs this come from, that's not the case. To give the easiest comparable example, it's like religion. If you can believe wholeheartedly in hell and the devil, it's not outlandish for indigenous people to wholeheartedly believe in the SW. Indigenous believe that by saying the SW's name in its full form, you give it power, and by giving it power, it's summoned to you. This is likely the reason the beast torments the ranch so aggressively. They literally put its name in the name. That's practically a neon flashing advertisement saying, "Come kill me." So, where does the whole idea of SWs on this ranch come from? Unfortunately, a convoluted, mostly inaccurate retelling of indigenous history by people who aren't indigenous, which is both good and bad, ironically. Good because there's so much misinformation about SWs, it distracts people from learning more about the truth, which is well-guarded secrets and endangering themselves. Bad because it's warping and tokenizing indigenous reality into a sideshow. There is a local legend linking the presence of SWs to hostility between the Navajo and the Utes. Supposedly, the first cursed the latter with these demonic creatures for supporting the American troops and forcing the Navajo onto a reserve. While it's true that the Ute did support the troops and hundreds of Navajo died while forced to walk days and nights to their new reserve, the cursed part is very convoluted and likely fictional. Betsy Chapus, the cultural rights and protective director of the Ute clan, acknowledged that various oral tales may have evolved over generations, but directly emphasized that she personally had never heard of any Navajo curse being placed on the land. And if someone would have heard, it would have been the people the curse was against, don't you think? She is one of the many Ute and Navajo people to have this opinion at this point, even if the curse never existed and there was never SWs as mentioned. Just saying their name, thinking about them, believing in them, gives them immense power and draws the monster to you. So by now, as said, if there weren't any before, and there are now, it's not the alleged curse to blame, it's the people talking about things they don't understand and dooming themselves as a result. Event number 9 is dire wolves. The Shermans, who famously owned the land from 1994 to 1996, allegedly saw plenty of creatures and beings, most notably a wolf 3 times the average size. The first day that the family was bringing their belongings into the new, albeit rundown farm home, a strange and very large wolf appeared. The wolf was incredibly friendly, making it mistakable as a possible wolf dog, the result of unfixed outdoor dogs mating with wolves. Wolf dogs aren't uncommon on the farm and the res land, so Terry Sherman, according to his own statement in the 1996 news article that made the ranch famous, patted it on the head and complimented its appearance. The wolf didn't attack, it hung around until Terry shooed it away. The wolf walked away calmly after, only to turn, approach the paddocks, and very suddenly bite one of the cows on the nose, and begin trying to drag it away through the fencing. Terry happened to be armed, because this is America, and started to fire at the wolf. Though he was an excellent marksman and was at close range, the munitions that seemingly hit the wolf didn't hurt it or cause it any pain, more so stunned it. The wolf, now a tad pissy at having its ass loaded full of buckshots, pranced away. Terry and his wife followed, only to see it vanish into thin air and its tracks disappear. In the weeks and months that followed, visitors to the ranch reported seeing unidentifiable beasts moving in the woods and letting out bellows. When researchers asked people to choose a picture of the wolf that most closely resembled the creature they saw, they chose the photo of a dire wolf, which, if you've seen our recent video, the top 10 scary Ice Age animals you never knew existed, they've been extinct for over 10,000 years, and wolves haven't been seen in Utah for decades. Its foul stench, reportedly like rotting flesh, stayed with the Shermans. Event number 8 is animal mutilation. Unlike the Dude Ranch on Malcolm in the Middle, the SW Ranch was meant for actual cow ranching, which is kind of hard to do if someone or something is playing the Operation board game on your cows. So apparently not long after moving in and meeting the dire wolves, some of Sherman's dogs were incinerated in the night, while cows were found dismembered and cored out. What a yummy descriptive word. With the kinds of surgical precision that ruled out coyotes. One cow found dead after the UFO sightings, don't worry about that, we'll get to those, started, had a peculiar hole in the center of its left eyeball, but otherwise it was untouched. There was no evidence of predators, footprints, or any kind of tire tracks, but a strange chemical-like odor was present. Later, another dead cow was found with a similar hole in its left eye and a 6-inch hole only about an inch deep carved out of its back door, and the same chemical smell was present. Cattle dismemberments have been reported across the United States since the 1960s, particularly in the western states, to the point that there's a term called classic mutilation, wherein a cow's back door is cored out and the udders and hoo-ha parts are usually missing. This is an ongoing problem well into the 1990s and even today. Some of the Sherman's cows completely vanished though. One appeared to have been lifted into the sky through the trees as its footprints ended right at the bush line, and looking up, the Sherman saw a large unnatural hole through the tree branches overhead. The branches broken out of the way were scattered on the ground where the cow last stood. One of the biggest reasons why the Shermans left the ranch was because they lost 20% of their cattle mysteriously. Event number 7 is UFOs, which we have now confirmed to us as real, and I feel they are probably the strongest thing at play at the SW Ranch, more so than any monster or mega wolf. The following information is pulled from the 1996 news article that brought this ranch to the attention of America. So, in 1951, a science teacher, Joseph Hicks, looked into the many stories of UFO sightings near the SW Ranch, only to learn that there was over 400 first-hand reports. When the Shermans moved in 1955, it didn't take long for them to get a taste. Terry had gone to check on a birthing cow, only to find it dead, with a mysterious light and shape flying away from it and over the 50-foot tree line. To quote the article, the Shermans, their teenage son and daughter, have seen 3 specific types of UFO repeatedly during the past 15 months. A small box-like craft with white lights, a 40-foot-long object with a huge ship the size of several football fields. They've seen one craft emit a wavy red ray or a light beam as it flies along. They've seen other airborne lights, some of which have emerged from orange circular doorways that seem to appear in mid-air. One of the sightings was flying lights that followed Gwen's car home. Over the years, Joseph Hicks said at least half a dozen eyewitnesses have told him they saw living beings in windows or portholes of UFOs. I'd estimate over 10% of the population of the Utah Basin has seen something. Event number 6 is mystery circles. On multiple occasions, large areas of tall grasses have been imprinted with iconic circles that are usually associated with UFOs. The ranch sat idle for 7 years after the previous owners had passed away, and it took a while for the Shermans to remodel the old house and move in. Before they took up residence, Terry noticed one of the strange circular depressions in the pasture west of the house. He assumed someone had removed a tree until they kept showing up. The Shermans once discovered 3 circles of flattened grass, each about 8 feet long, in a triangular pattern about 30 feet from each other. In a nearby pasture, other strange soil impressions have been found. Circles around 3 feet wide and a foot or 2 deep, with dirt in the center perfectly flattened as per the article source. Event number 5 is humanoids. Then, on the night of March 12, 1997, after the ranch had been sold off, biochemist Colm Calliner, working with the Bigelow's National Institute for Discovery Science, claimed to see a large humanoid creature spying on the research team from a tree. As he detailed in Hunt for the SW, a novel, it was approximately 50 yards away, watching the team safely from its perch 20 feet off the ground, and that, to quote, the only indication of the beast's presence was the penetrating yellow light of unblinking eyes as they stared fixedly back into their flashlight. After Kelleher fired at the creature, because that's always a good idea, it disappeared. It was then that I saw it, a single obvious oval track about 6 inches in diameter embedded deeply into a patch of snow. It looked unusual, a single large print in the snow with 2 sharp claws protruding from the rear of the mark, going a couple of inches deeper. It almost looked like a bird of prey, maybe a raptor print, but huge, and from the depth of the print, from a very heavy creature. Event number 4 ties into that. It's Bigfoot, and that's with about 30 question marks following it, because with every passing point, the accounts of this ranch bounce between pure tourist attraction BS and actual substantiated claims. So, the same biochemist story I just talked about, you know, the whole big scary monster in a tree thing, has been used to uphold the rumor that even Bigfoot has been spotted on this ranch, which is starting to feel more like Hotel Transylvania in effect, and the monsters just go here for summer vacation. The massive 8-man creature has been seen walking through the ranch's plain area before vanishing mid-step, just as hairy and gangly as all Bigfoot legends describe him to be. The large ape man, surprisingly, isn't usually that terrifying compared to the other ranch creatures or humanoids, because aside from the tree story, it's the only non-voyeuristic one, seeming to try and avoid people at all costs. However, there still have been reports that are absolutely terrifying, including a strange tie to a mysterious black box, one that apparently humanoid aliens who have been at the ranch showed ranchers. The box appeared to control Bigfoot, and when Bigfoot touched the box of his own volition, he appeared to die. Naturally, none of this is credible, so do what you will with that information. Event number 3 is strange lights. Aside from UFOs, there are also bizarre lights that seemingly float and fly around the ranch and its surrounding areas. At Bottle Hollow, a 420-acre man-made reservoir on Ute land abutting the ranch, in 1998, a police officer saw a large light plunge into said reservoir and then re-emerge, flying off into the night sky. One night in 2002, 4 men standing on the reservoir shoreline saw a blue-white ball enter the artificial lake. The glowing ball reportedly dove into the water just a few feet from shore, then re-emerged seconds later in a new form, a shimmering, maneuverable, belt-shaped shaft of light. To quote from interview, after performing a brief, writhing aerial dance, the belt of light zipped away at a high rate of speed, hugging the ground before disappearing below the top of SW Ridge. At one point, the Sherman family's dogs ran after the lights, which retaliated by obliterating them. Heartbreakingly, all that was left was some ash. The appearance of supernatural around Bottle Hollow makes sense with the context of Ute beliefs, who believe that the springs and certain waterways were reservoirs of negative power, and that evil spirits or evil sprites would rise up out of the water to drag you in. Event number 2 is water spirits. The ranch is isolated 3 miles from the main road, and its access is cut off by a creek and a huge rock ridge. Alongside the Bottle Hollow, the water is a breeding ground for Navajo and Ute tales of water beings, souls lost cruelly within water who mimic the cries of a babe to lure the unsuspecting closer and into the watery depth. Scarily enough, multiple people have claimed to hear them in the evening hours while traversing the ranch, most often heard near the creek. And while in one of the fields with the family dogs, Terry heard male voices speaking in an unfamiliar language. The voices seemed to be about 25 feet from him, but he couldn't see a thing. The dogs were frantic. They barked and growled before running off, and lo and behold, what was 25 feet away? Water. If you weren't creeped out enough, according to law enforcement officers, there have been reports of giant sea snakes living in the lakes near the ranch. The sea snakes, which have been alluded to in local legends, have been blamed for multiple mysterious drownings in shallow water. People in the area have also claimed to be grabbed by the snakes and dragged into murky depths. Event number 1 is destroyed equipment. Maybe you're a skeptic. Maybe you're like me and you believe parts of it, just not all of it. Maybe you want to believe, but you need proof. No matter your stance, prepare to be disappointed or not. Depends on how you view the destruction of equipment that was meant to survey the ranch and prove or disprove the entity's existence there. Some could argue that having everything smashed to pieces could be a pretty good cover-up for a tourist attraction scam, or it really could be preventative measures of the creatures themselves. The 1996 newspaper article about the Shermans' terrifying experiences attracted the notice of an unlikely party, billionaire property magnate Robert Bigelow, who founded the National Institute for Discovery Science, which was effectively his own personal X-Files team. Fascinated by the history of the region, he bought the ranch. The team set up monitoring equipment, observation posts, around-the-clock surveillance. The activity triggered conspiracy theorists among the UFO watchers, leading Bigelow to give an interview denying he was in cahoots with the CIA or that he had prior contact with aliens in Utah. He just wanted to own America's hotspot of ghosts and ghouls and get concrete evidence of their existence for himself and all his billionaire buddies. When you have endless money and time, your hobbies get kinda niche. What makes the story of the ranch so remarkable and oh so clickable online is the curious phenomena carried on even after intense scrutiny by the NIDS, who now claim that they have witnessed the same inexplicable lights as the Shermans had reported, yet their equipment would mysteriously malfunction at critical moments instead of capture it. There were even cases of electronic equipment being physically mangled and shredded and wires ripped out. One NDIS consultant, retired intelligence officer John Alexander, later said in an interview that a precognitive sentient intelligence was at work on the ranch, somehow predicting what the NIDS team were going to do next and messed up their equipment accordingly. But maybe they found what they were looking for after all, as in 2016 Bigelow sold the ranch to Atedium Real Estate LLC, at which point the roads leading to the ranch were blocked. The perimeter is now guarded by cameras and barbed wire, and signs were posted that aim to prevent people from approaching the ranch. Thank you once again for tuning into Bumblebee. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Take some time to subscribe to The Hive to see more of our content, and drop a like and maybe a comment down below.